Go.
And here we go. Welcome to You Had Me at Halo's Spoiler Cast, where today we're going to talk about the fourth ever TV episode for Halo, including, but not limited to, butt cracks, Spartan midlife crises, Master Chief putting his helmet on, and then almost immediately taking it back off, more butt cracks, and why you can't take teenagers to funerals. But before we get into all that, let's go ahead and meet today's cast. First up, we got Spartan Jesse, a.k.a. Mr. Don Cabeza. How's it going, Mr. Jesse?
I am doing very well. I hope everyone else is having a wonderful Friday.
It is Friday, so that's always better than Monday.
You might say it's a good Friday.
Yeah, that's a good Friday. Pun intended, I guess. So next up, we got Ursel, aka Mr. Soulblazer. Thanks for making it to be with us today.
No problem. I was on my PC, doing something else. I'm like, man, if I'm already up here, might as well join the episode. I might be a little quieter than usual. Might be a good thing.
Yeah, Mr. Soul is feeling a little bit under the weather, so we just dragged him out here to, just because we just wanted to see what would happen. Honestly, next up we got Spartan.
Where are you going to go with that?
just wanted to see what was going to happen. Next up we got Spartan Austin, aka Mr. Pfhorbear. How's it going?
What's
Austin?
going on, my fellow capital G gamers? Having a good day, guys. Super ready to talk about this amazing episode of the Halo television series and some other cool stuff.
I can't tell if that was sarcasm, but we're going to find out soon. We have not discussed this show yet. So, finally, we have Spartan Amanda, aka Mandala. How are you doing, Amanda?
I'm doing good. I'm doing great. Glad it's Friday.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
They had me working right up until 5:04.
You know, that's the thing. I feel like we come to these. We're always coming to this show on Friday, kind of a little bit on fire, right? It just feels like we're all juggling and barely getting to sit down in time. So, this time we haven't had a chance to even get a hint at what anybody on this panel thought of the show. So this is really going to be interesting because I think usually we've had a chance to talk about it a little bit. But finally, I'm your host. I am Spartan Abe, aka Onebadmutha. So without further ado, let's just jump right into this show. All right, so I guess I'm going to start with you this week, Jesse. I want to just get a feel from you. Yeah, I think you've been generally pretty positive coming in on most of the shows. I wanted to see kind of where you're at with this, and I'll let you just kind of start with the first thing that sticks out to you this week.
The Quan Ha stuff is boring, and it took up too much of the show. I'm interested to see where it goes. It's just taking too long to get there, and pretty much all she's doing is just getting everyone she loves killed. So it's funny in that way, because she's like, oh, I'm so important, we got money. And her aunt's like, no, you're not, and no, we don't. And so everyone's getting murdered. Soren's great. The actress who's playing Quan Ha is very good. Bern Gorman is full-on twirling mustache evil. I'm hoping there's more nuance there, but I doubt it. On the whole, everything with John and Kai and all that I thought was excellent. I really like the actress that plays Kai, and I think she's really good, and Vanek is funny as hell. I'm really interested to see where that goes with half of the squad now, trying to understand emotions again for the first time in a very long time. Her interactions with Miranda was really good in this episode, I thought. A lot of the stuff they went over and their interactions and their talk, it felt natural for someone who they're essentially both daughters of a really awful person. And I get when Spartans are on a mission, it's never been normal in canon for them to have all their armor and helmet on. So I don't know why people are getting so annoyed that he takes his helmet off all the time, because if it's not in the middle of a firefight, not in the middle of an op where, they're getting shot at, it just makes sense to not always have armor and a helmet on.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna jump into some of that. I think you touched on a couple of things. I'm gonna get some like high level thoughts from everybody, and I think we'll pick out a couple of the areas that you guys all keyed in on. I already kind of spoiled my key focuses in my introduction. But Pfhorbear, how about you, man? Let's hear from you.
Cracks?
Butt cracks. It's like we had 2 of them this week, not just one. 2 butt cracks.
I think this episode was at times one of the better, more interesting episodes. I agree with Jesse as far as like the people getting upset about the armor thing. I was almost surprised that Chief wore armor to Aridness, but makes sense. He's technically out on the field. They don't know what to expect. That whole thing. I think that this was also some of the weakest that the show has been. And like you said, when we start to like dive deeper into it, we'll get into that a little bit more. I love every actor in the show is perfect for their roles. I think that, like Jesse said, especially the Quan stuff, the Quan Ha stuff. I think that I just think that these actors aren't being given material that plays to their strengths. I think that they are doing a great job with what they have. And even that being said, I don't necessarily think that the material is like bad. I just think that it could, of course, be better. That's kind of where I'm at right now with this episode.
Yeah, it's interesting you said that, because you were saying you think all the actors are right for the roles, but I was about to say, do you think all the writers are right for these actors and actresses? Because we're going to dive into that here shortly. Mr. Soul, I'm going to try to get your opinion before you fall asleep on the podcast. What do you think of it?
Just high level thoughts. When I first finished the episode, I was like, didn't kind of. I thought some things were too off. But then as I took some time and thought about it, it was honestly just the Quan Ha sections that I had problems with. I didn't like her in the previous episode, and this episode was that times more, right? Mm-hmm. And that entire, I guess you guys are right where it's like the writing feels so off sometimes. It almost feels like the Chief's scenes are written by someone else and the other scenes are written by someone else. But my issue with the Quan Ha stuff is that, and this is something a lot of Marvel shows do, in fact, every Marvel show does, is the writing suffers for the plot. Basically, we need to get character to point A, point B, point C, right, and we got to use the writing however we need to get it there. So Soren is walking around with like no protection, no armor. He's letting this straight up fugitive just show her face around to everybody. Stuff like that just didn't make sense to me, and it was kind of frustrating seeing that. Even though he is a really cool character, though I was completely checked out of that action scene.
The freaking helmet that he puts on when they get on the bike, I was like, fuck off, dude. It's so bad.
But it's, to be honest, it's just that. It's just the Quan Ha part. I thought the other parts were actually really well. See, Silver Team, that scene in Silver Team was really well done, I thought, for example.
It's really hard to ignore the Quan Ha stuff, though, because that seemed like that was a bulk. That was like the focus.
That was the focus of the episode, for sure.
Everything else seemed like it was just to break up pacing or change pace, and it was. But anyways, let's hear it from you, Amanda. Like, what were some of your high level ones, and then we're going to dive into. I guess we'll start diving right into some of the main stuff right after that.
I most enjoyed the scenes with Master Chief and Halsey, going back to, what is it, Aridness?
I'm so mad about that. Reading the books for years and years, I thought it was pronounced Eridanus, but sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember that. It was so tense. I really like the scenes because I've been waiting to introduce my Ballsy Halsey nickname, and I haven't been able to, and then I'm not going to be able to this week either because she was not ballsy. And just to see her like a little bit scared and freaked out was some nice development that we needed from her.
Yeah, I think there is some potential interesting things developing there. But I think, kind of getting into my just high level thoughts of this show, I honestly thought this is probably the weakest. I mean, to me, it was there with the second episode of the season. I think, obviously as the fourth episode of the season, as you're getting to the midpoint, you don't like to lose momentum like that. But let's go ahead and just kind of dive right into like the key thing. And so you pointed it out, and I thought it was, I thought it was really fair because that was your thoughts were really along the lines of me. It was like it was almost as if somebody told these writers or the writer for the this this adventure that they're on, this little side mission that they're doing. All right, you got to get them to you got to make 4 major things happen within 5 minutes of show, and they're they're getting to the planet. She's and I think in order to have them, have what's his name? What's the main baddie on the planet there?
Burn
Not good with
Gorman.
the names.
No,
Gorman.
Fincher.
Yeah, the Gorman character, that guy. So in order to get him to know that they're there, she's got to be dumb. Right off the bat, I'm going to leave my hood off and I'm going to run into a crowd while I'm on the TV. It's all right, come on, right there. It's come on, and then you move over to him bringing in some assassin because they don't want to make a martyr of her. But within a few seconds of that attempt, they're going to try to make a martyr of her with a bunch of people that shoot like stormtroopers, and it was just so messy that they're going from one thing to another. But so kind of was your kind of dive a little bit more into that. What were some of the things that you thought there? Am I being a little bit too harsh on some of the writing, or do we think that?
No, those scenes sucked.
Yeah, I mean,
And it was still cool seeing Soren take people out. That was fun.
Yeah, it's fun seeing Soren fight. I think it has earned the title of the B plotline.
Yes,
it is definitely the weaker plotline. Definitely feels like it's a side thing that, in my mind, could play itself out hopefully by the end of the season, and then next season, it's not something we fucking ever think about again. Because I'm over it completely.
You know what would be amazing if actually I'll say this at the end of the episode. But you're right, Abe. It's don't make a martyr of someone, and then you just kill the aunt, so the dude's sister, right away. What the heck?
it doesn't make sense.
Do that.
This goes back to what I was saying the week before. It's we were trying to fill in the blanks on some of the stuff, but now it's whoever's handling that storyline, I'm just assuming that it's the same writers or whatever. It's just
There's 2 writers on the entire show. Same 2 guys. So.
Oh, is it? Okay. Well, that stuff is.
Yeah,
No, there has to be more. There's people behind the scenes. There's not 2 people writing the entire show.
There's 2 people that are only 2 people are credited on IMDb. Then.
Yeah, that's the way it works. But there's definitely a writer's room.
It's my issue with the episode, for example, was, in fact, I actually got excited about that storyline for a second, because when she meets her aunt, and her aunt's there's something you need to know about your father. I'm oh man, are we finally gonna get into the grayness, the messiness of the insurrectionists? And then no, it's another foreigner plotline. Come on, we already have a foreigner plotline running with the chief, right? We really need another Quan Ha's family's also been guarding foreign artifacts on this planet or something, and that's why the cave was there, which is where I think it's gonna go in the next couple episodes. It's I don't know.
Yeah, it was why was their fort so close to that object? It was obviously there's something going on.
I guess the issue is there's one thing for a B plotline to be not as good, right? I've seen some shows where I don't really care much for the other plot lines, but whatever, I'll still watch them, right? The problem with the Quan Ha plot line in Madrigal is it's legitimately bad writing, in my opinion, at least so far. They can still turn it around. They're still in their 4 or 5 episodes, 5, I think, actually. There's quite a bit of the show left. We're not even halfway through. But at least so far, it's just the character's super unlikable. I've heard rumors that people are thinking she might be a Spartan 3 candidate, which would be interesting to see on screen, but from what they showed right now,
Yeah, there's got to be more than your dad went into the desert and came back changed, and then the fort was right next to the Forerunner object. So it's there has to be more, otherwise it's just eye roll.
So Pfhorbear, how about you, man? Anything you want to kind of add to that? I think it feels like so far we're kind of unanimous on that. By the way, is my volume okay? I think I've got some technical difficulties.
In my opinion, it's a little blown out. It sounds a little blown out listening to it on YouTube, but just a little bit.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and lower you. Hold on.
As far as the Quan Ha stuff goes, man, it's frustrating. I imagine that this will either run its course and she'll be the ruler of Madrigal by the end of it, or they'll find a way to tie her back into the Chief story, and there'll be like a big reunion towards the end of the season. I wish that I honestly kind of cared one way or the other, and I don't right now. I think the most interesting thing that could happen, unfortunately, is that they find another Foreigner artifact there on Madrigal that does connect back to like the Foreigner stuff that's going on with Chief and all of that. I think Soren's an interesting character. I would like to see him be more of like the loose cannon badass like ex-Spartan than he has so far.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
Russell said earlier, I think that we got some cool stuff this episode where he actually fought people and then like asked them like, do you really want me to embarrass you again when they tried to stop him? I thought that was a great character moment, but was the only interesting thing that happened on Madrigal this entire episode, which sucks because like everyone else has said, was most of this episode.
And Soren, the problem I have with that is that he's my go-to example of writing that forces characters to do certain things. He's been the leader of this outlaw rebel, right, for decades at this point, and you're telling me that he didn't bring someone else to guard his ship or to hide something, or he's walking around with a fugitive without a helmet or any kind of mask or anything. It's just like, this doesn't feel any character for him.
Chest piece on, like
with his name
so
written on it
weird,
and with
man.
numbers. You know what I mean? It's just from the character I learned of him in episodes 2 and 3. It didn't feel like he would be making these decisions in episode 4. That always kind of irritates. Shows do it. Movies do it all the time too. They move the plot forward. It's just I'm not a fan of that. You know?
No, and that's kind of like, you know, for me, it's always about them staying consistent, right? Like you can almost do anything you want as long as you stay consistent with it. And if a character is going to change, it has to make sense. And I think one of the biggest problems I have is obviously Quan Ha is supposed to be a major character, somebody you're rooting for. Like, why do they got to make the good guy so stupid? You know, like, and I feel like they do it because it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to move the plot along. It's a lot harder to make that person smart, but make the bad guy smarter, right? Like try to do something along those lines. And so it's just easy to make her just really dumb, you know, yelling out in the middle of a funeral,
Well, and that had so much potential for the person to have like somehow traded the Kwahan's father and
Right.
like all of that. Like I thought that's where that was going to go. I was like, oh, that's way more interesting than what's been happening. And then they immediately threw it aside. Like, man, we're not going to chase that thread. We're gonna do something else.
It's like the contrast between the Quan Ha moments, which are like super basic and being hit in your head. Hey, this is happening. Hey, this is that. And then you switch over to the Chiefs moments, which are really subtle, I thought, in this episode, right? Subtle emotion, subtle memories coming back. You're not in a way. Is Chief, does he realize what happened? Is he mad at Halsey? Like, what's happening here? You know, and that difference kind of exaggerated the flaws of Quan Ha's part in this episode.
Well, and that's what
They
it's
name
been
dropped.
like. Oh, go ahead.
They name dropped someone in the opening sequence too.
Yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah.
Yes, who again?
Mendez.
Yes, that was cool. Yeah.
Wait,
I'm right away, I'm excited.
go ahead and clarify what you're talking about.
He was the Spartan.
Chief
He was the
Mendez.
head of the Spartan training program.
Oh, okay.
So they were
Gotcha.
16 or something after they got their enhancements.
Yeah, there was actually a few callbacks to the books. Well, at least one specifically, right? The coin flip thing. It
Oh,
looked
that
like
was
they were-
great. Ooh.
That was probably
Like,
that's probably one of the best parts.
everything that's happened that does diverge from canon was probably the only thing that will happen in the show that I was disappointed that didn't follow more closely to the source material. I really like in the books where it's all the kids, they're like tossing
Yeah.
with each other on the playground. Chief is like up on the hill and he's like a little badass, and then like plays with the coin with Halsey. I thought that this is an interesting way to do it, where Halsey was in their house with John and probably John's parents, especially since John's dad is a scientist and would know who Dr. Halsey is. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, so there's some interesting things there. So I guess we won't belabor too much the chronology because I think we kind of hit it all. It's just I just think it's abrupt writing. It's late. Go ahead. So
Sorry, it's
yeah,
really
go ahead
quick.
to say.
So I was reading comments. People were saying Soren's gun looked a lot like out of Destiny.
It
You get that at all?
100% looked like a hand
Right?
cannon to me. It looked like Last Word. 100%.
I wonder if that was on purpose. It had to be, right?
I mean, even the way
Yeah.
like the exaggerated firing motion of it is like, come on, man. Tell me you've never shot a revolver before in your life.
You're talking about the kickback? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't even need to play Destiny for thousands of hours to know what you're talking about there. Even me, who's barely played Destiny, knows what you're talking about there.
Amanda,
Amanda, you were saying something. Where were you about to say?
I was just going to say before we move on, I just think Soren is a much more interesting character than being Quan's chauffeur around,
Yeah.
Yes.
you know, the little thing. Like, we need something else from him, which I hope.
I think it would have been really cool
Which I
for
hope they'll
him
do.
to have like tagged along with Chief while Chief is like becoming a human again. I think that would have been way more interesting than, like you said, like chauffeur Quan Ha
with him being like, see how nice it is to be fully human.
You know what it feels.
Love the helmet.
You know what? This week it just feels like this week's episode was like a generic side mission. That's all it was. One of the games. The things that I skipped over.
That like this season is 9 episodes. Why does it feel like in the middle of it we're getting a filler episode, man?
Right. Yeah.
And like, what is what possibly is going to come from what's going to come from this magical? Like, it's got to be something really big for it to be worth the payoff.
So it's getting glassed, right? I'm not the only one who thinks that. I mean,
I think that's the most interesting thing that could happen.
Glass and core canon. Glassing it shows that even if you ally with the UNSC, that doesn't save you from the Covenant, right? If they want to glass your planet, they're going to glass your planet. Like, you can't really stop that.
Right.
So that's where I think it's going to go, and that's where I hope. Holy crap, that's where I hope it goes.
So this is basically just setting up so that we can witness that. And you know what? If they haven't already planned on glassing it, after the feedback, they probably just will. It'd be like I always keep going back to Game of Thrones because you remember when they brought the sand snakes in there and then everybody hated them and then they just wrote them off like the beginning of the next season. It's like, we're just gonna kill them all. They're all killed in one
Geo
scene.
Walker makes a really good point in chat. Is like when she got all upset because like we're really scared of the Covenant. They're terrifying, and she's like, "Who cares? I want to do what my dad wanted." And it's like, shut up. they are legitimately scared for a legitimate reason. You dumbass.
Yeah, it's
you haven't been here for like a week and a half, dude. You don't know what's going on. Like, you're seeing what's going on TV, but that's barely telling the story.
Well, she was there. She was literally there and saw.
Of course, but she hasn't been there for the aftermath of it all, right?
Dumbass.
Like, she's being incredibly selfish. You know what, Ursula? I think you bring up a great point about Madrigal getting.
Well, she's being a teenager.
100%, which plays into something that I'm upset about in this episode. But I wonder if they won't glass Reach in this show.
I don't think they will. Not in this season. I really don't think so.
It's a really expensive place to have built all of these real. If you watch the like the behind the scenes things this week, they build everything for real that they can. So there's no. I get it if they don't glass it right away. If it's something they build up to, and then they can like repurpose these sets to be on Earth or something.
Reach is definitely.
I think they. Reach will go down.
Season.
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's season 1. But like when they've spent this many millions building so many different places in Reach like that, I get why you budget wise you don't just say, okay, now we got to completely mess these all up and make them something new for another couple million.
I tell that to a Wheel of Time. They built this entire village set, burned it down in the first episode. I had a big interview about it.
They got Bezos money.
Oh yeah.
You guys did bring up some interesting points, though. Like, you talk about the glassing the planet. I mean, that's what I think the best way they could pay this off. And again, I don't think they're necessarily the details of how they're getting there are the best, but would be that you have this human conflict, and then all of a sudden you have a planet glass, and it's like makes them kind of realize how small that whole thing is, right? And then they have to kind of force these people that are at odds with each other, that have been killing each other, to figure out how to, become a part of the same team. Because that's kind of like the same sort of thing that happened to the, in the Halo universe anyways, right? Like,
that's the books. Yeah. Like if you go to Contact Harvest, it's all about the insurrection and everything. And then all of a sudden the Covenant show up and they're like, oh shit.
I mean, it's even how they justify like the Spartan program after the fact. Like the Spartans were meant to fight the insurrectionists, but then the Covenant came and it was like, oh well, weren't we lucky we kidnapped those 6-year-olds?
Right.
right. So I could see that. I could see them like blowing up a bunch of people, doing the Save It Pride riot Saving Private Ryan. I can't speak again this week, you guys.
Saving Ryan's Privates is the one you're thinking
Saving Ryan's Privates. That makes more sense, I think, with this the way the show's
of.
going.
Real movie. Don't look it up.
And it would like right away solve my primary issue with the show. Well, my mostly primary issue with the show, which is just the stakes of the Covenant versus the humans, right? Right now, the show hasn't given that at all, other than the first
Right.
episode.
I
Right?
think
And
I
want to say
it's going to be very exciting.
that's what I'm pretty sure, yeah. But I want to say it's probably a budget thing. I have a feeling when you have episodes like this and the last episode, they don't cost 10 million, right? Not for this episode.
Right.
That money moves on, blah blah blah. They budget for certain fights. I was hoping this would be the action episode. But hey, next week should be even better then, right?
I think with how well the show's being received generally and how well it's performing on Paramount's like numbers, and the fact that it's already been approved for that second season, I imagine next season's going to be very much so like we talked about last week, where like Game of Thrones had to ramp up to a bigger budget. I think that next season's going to blow this one out of the water for sure.
Yeah,
and
season
we know
one
what
is
the
still
ratings
a
are?
Pilot season.
Yeah.
The
I don't-
actor who plays Master Chief said it was the most watched or one of the most
Yeah,
watched.
Second most
Paramount
watched.
did put out like not numbers but a graph in that Halo has been week over week in the top 1 or 2 most watched Paramount series on the platform. So that's pretty solid, especially with stuff like iCarly, which I know has like a big cult following right now. I know it's funny to say, but like even all the Star Trek stuff like isn't coming close to what Halo's doing. That's super exciting. And it's probably because Xbox Game Pass subscribers got a free month of Paramount.
Pablo did say that it was this is a couple weeks ago, the second most streamed piece of entertainment in the US behind Coda, and the first in Canada. There were no numbers provided, and I tried looking up where he was getting them from, but I couldn't find anything. But
He probably
I mean,
gave
it
away
should-
some internal Paramount metrics where they,
right,
they all
Internal trading.
It does show you. I mean, right, this is a little bit off topic, but I think it does still show what the power of the IP has, right? Because it's not because it's gotten amazing ratings across the board. I feel like most people have been kind of they've either been in the middle, or some, obviously some Halo fans have been very outspokenly negative. That might be a good transition right there, though. So let's move over to Mr. Master Chief. So obviously he's been getting the source of some controversy online. I think we've kind of focused on what the real low point of the show this week was, but for some people it is still Chief doesn't feel like Chief. I want to get some of your feelings on. Now, Amanda, you mentioned it earlier, so you really like what they're doing with that right now. So I'll let you kind of like elaborate on some of the things that are standing out to you. And like how you're feeling overall as somebody that's not as connected to it, this being like the games, right? Like how does that come across to you?
Well, like when people say Chief doesn't feel like Chief, well, it's like good because he is learning how to be a person. He's not the Chief that we know. And you got to make the show interesting somehow. I mean, how interesting would it be to just have, think about it. If you had actual Master Chief from the games walking around for 9 hours being the way he is, it would not be interesting. So I like him learning how to be a person, and I really liked the dynamic between him and Halsey. I really liked seeing Halsey scared, and you really feel the tension because it's almost like have you ever tried to hide something from somebody and then slowly realizing that they're going to figure it out, and what the fuck do I do? She's just like, how am I going to get out of this? And there's only so far that the you were a child, you don't remember right is going to work, because Master Chief's not an idiot.
he already doesn't look like he believes the things she's saying.
Oh yeah,
No.
that scene, the tension
And
was
the
like,
Cortana looks like and I really liked the Cortana rebuilding things in his visor.
Yeah.
Mechanic, the way that worked, and then it triggering his memories coming back and sort of overwhelming him almost, so that he was seeing
One of
them
my
directly
favorite
and-
shots in the entire series so far is in this episode.
him leaning down with the armor.
Yeah,
without the armor?
so it's the transition from him
Okay,
being in the
yeah.
armor to it cutting back and he's out of it. I thought that was super
That was an
cool.
amazing shot. Yeah, I think he was even in his dad's clothing. I think someone mentioned that. I don't know. I'm going to double check it, but
I really
Oh, that
love
would've been a
the
good touch.
this. I really love the scene with him leaning over himself as a child, like trying to figure himself out. I was like, oh my God. It was chilling. I just really liked the way that they framed that and the way that they showed it. And it was like almost touching, you know?
The way
Cortana's looking, the way Cortana's like looking over him with actual concern, as where Halsey's looking at him like, "Oh fuck, don't remember that I was here, please." That's where I think the dynamic of the Chief and Cortana relationship is going to come, because she's just going to tell Halsey to go fuck herself. Like they're setting up Halsey as so in control and so like all powerful, and everyone's scared of her, and then her two best creations are just going to say, "No, stop treating us like shit." And really worry about each other when the Covenant stuff really comes to the forefront. I think that's going to be what they're building up to, because the way Jen Taylor was talking and her look and everything, she was legitimately concerned during it. As where Halsey's just like, fuck, just where's the object? Jesus Christ.
And even then, you had that one scene where Cortana refused to build his room, right? And I'm like, okay, so clearly they're trying to prevent this from happening, right? But it's like, nah, it's not. It's not preventable anymore. A big risk by Halsey, but then again, she can literally stop Chief with like a command, right? If Cortana listens.
Yeah,
so.
and she said the information on the room was hidden. That's the Cortana's like, I don't have this to rebuild it for you. I'm sorry, it's too damaged. Which I think was obviously Halsey making sure she couldn't do it.
Definitely.
So what was she rebuilding it from? That was one thing that I didn't necessarily get. Was it from John's
UNSC
memory?
records, essentially? Like
Okay.
This was
records of all the buildings, and like like future. I just took it as like future plans on how everything was and how it would have looked, and like because they would have had the layout of everything and when they built it all, and so just using that and rebuilding it. Yeah.
Like,
I mean, she did say something before she
corrected.
started how she did say something before she started how she was going to do it, but I don't remember exactly.
sci-fi stuff, basically.
I really
okay.
like that Chief corrected like where the table was placed in the kitchen. I thought that was a great touch.
Yeah, it's interesting, and that's really one of the things that you're going to get. I think
His dad looks like you, Abe. Little bit.
Damn, Abe is Nick's dad, right? We come
What
close.
a bad father.
Oh
really.
man, I don't know what to say to that. All right, we're going to keep going.
The one part of that
I
scene,
like, and these scenes where like you got the inside of his visor to get his reaction and seeing how the HUD looked to him, I thought were really good. Especially the ones that were a little off to the side. and you could see.
Yeah,
them
rather
at
than
the
looking
same
directly
time.
through it and having it be sci-fi cheesy, you get to
It
see
was-
him in it.
It was the thing that I was waiting for, right? Like the Iron Man shot. And we
Yeah.
did get, one or two of those, but like this that you have it on right now, Jesse, where it was like the side view of his face, and you're watching his eyes track like where he's looking. I thought that was a way better interpretation of how to do that than just like you said, Amanda, like this straight on.
Yeah,
like
they did the mix. They did them both. They had a few where they were just going for his emotion, and then some where it was more sort of seeing how he's reacting and like what he's seeing a bit. And I have to say, every time I see this suit, god damn, do the suits look freaking
it looks amazing.
good.
They look so good, honestly, and then the noise it took every time they walk.
I think the noise is super necessary. I thought that it was a little too much in the first episode, especially when there was all four of them and they were all just like horse clops around, like doing it so much. But I think especially in these moments where it's very emotional, very very high tension for Chief, it's super apt to like constantly have that reminder that he is in this armor. I think it totally works.
Yeah. The one part of that scene which I was a little iffy on was the digging, just because I'm like, okay, surely you can scan the ground, right? But they came with like a random vessel. They probably didn't have digging equipment, so whatever. I'll give it a pass.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And I'm like, why are we digging in random places? Like, don't you have something that could detect?
Don't we have anything more advanced than a shovel at this point?
So a shovel with Chief is.
I mean,
isn't
even
that-
we had metal detectors. I mean,
right. That's one of the, and this is one of the hard parts I think that I have, like sometimes watching shows that are obviously for adults, right? Like they're going to say, hey, we're going to show you butt cracks so your kids can't watch it. But then, you kind of like have all these like, you think the writing would be a little like sometimes smarter or.
I think it's a metaphor for Chief trying to find himself.
Yeah, I get it.
And there is a point,
Metaphors.
Abe, you have to remember, they write TV shows for the masses, and the masses have a lot of stupid people in them. they have to keep it pretty basic sometimes. There's no getting around it. Like there's a
Like-
reason things are called art house when they make you think, because most people are just coming to
That
this
picture
for
of
dumb
those.
fun.
Like, doesn't anybody think if you had a ship as big as the one Soren had, wouldn't you have like a ship alarm on it? Like if somebody was like breaking it apart and
God,
like
right?
sending it away. Sorry, I couldn't help but think about that. It's like how did your ship get taken away? You didn't even know.
I think that was this episode's biggest failing. Was just the other episodes had moments where I'm like, okay, but I'll give it some time. This one was like it breaks the suspense of disbelief. You know,
like you have to just go. I'm not going to think about overthink anything. It's Star Wars in that regard. You know, like in Star Wars, you never like overthink. How do you get from here to here? And you just go with it.
Well, even
right?
in this, they're very quickly going from planet to planet. When normally that's weeks to months. So
Right.
Oh, speaking of, dude, that shot when they were entering Aridinus 2, so well done.
it's a very good looking show. They went over again in the opening. They went over their special effects and just how much is like practical.
Really, I need to watch
It's
those episodes, man.
Crazy. Like the debrief, the end of the
that looks
debrief.
so good.
First half is a conversation with Jen Taylor about making Cortana.
She's doing a
And
great
then
job.
the
by
very
way.
end, they've got a short thing about their special effects, and like you see the puppet prophets are really goddamn cool. And then they just go in and redo their faces to make them more human. And it's like, yeah, the way they've approached special effects is my favorite way by far, which is everything we can do practical, we do practical, and we just do CGI when it can enhance or it's the only way to do something.
A very
Cortana's
like
also
J.J.
good,
Abrams sequel trilogy approach to it, which is very much appreciated.
Cortana's
But
growing on me
far
too.
less lens flares.
Yeah.
You know, I actually I'll agree with you, Jesse. I actually am finding some of those the post show things to be, you know, really interesting. Like this week, I thought it was more interesting than the show, just to be fair. You know, but just kind of hearing from like Jen Taylor and you know, and just the way that they are building these, it is really cool for somebody that's not in the movie business to see how they're
Those
doing
and
it.
the Silver Debrief blogs are great for getting like character motivations and what act.
Yeah.
So the video is really good for getting like how the production went and all that stuff. But then those Silver Debrief blogs, which I wish were up by the time we did this show, because it gives you all the character motivation and like what the writers were thinking on stuff. Those are really good to go
I need
through.
that. I need that while I'm watching the show.
And it confirms things like Katana's in a chip, but just the chips and Chief said, you know, stuff like that. We weren't 100% sure about when we were watching it. One thing I did want to say was I know people complained a lot about him taking the helmet off, taking it on, putting it off, taking it off. One thing to keep in mind as well is that television has a lot of moving parts, right? And one of those parts are actor contracts. And in a lot of them, they're contracted like I need this much screen time, or I need to speak this much, or I got to show my faces, you know, that kind of thing. So depending on how the contracts worked out, that could also be a part of it too.
I mean,
You know,
I think it does also lend itself really well to, like Amanda said earlier, like I don't think that the show would be interesting if it was just Chief in the helmet, especially like in armor in like civilian areas. 100% of the time, it just wouldn't work. I think that people being upset about him taking his helmet off in the first episode is understandable to a point. I also think they needed to set the precedence that Chief is not going to wear his helmet all the time, or even most of the time thus far. It is mostly Pablo Schreiber that we're looking at rather than the gold visor on the green helmet.
And then when we get the action episodes, it's just full on video game Chief. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have to say again, I won't show it because there's butt cheeks. But like the scene with Kai where she's taken out the chip, the actress there, looking up her record, she's mostly done video game voiceovers. And she's really good. This is like one of her first few live action roles, and she's excellent. She's also 6'3", so she is very tall.
I was wondering if she was because Jen Taylor was talking about like when looking up to these girls. And
Riz is 6'1", Vanek's like super tall, and then Pablo's 6'3", I think. So yeah,
I was wondering. I was like, are they on miniature beds or what's going? How are they making them look so
that's
big?
the thing. They're actually tall. So they're acting with actors and actresses who are mostly short in Hollywood. So
I'm like, the
they
bed
have to be
doesn't look
taller.
that small. I don't know. This is weird.
What a huge benefit too for characters like Miranda Keys, who is like 5'4" or whatever, and like you really get that sense of Spartan scale when they're all, especially all three are in the room with her. You're like, Jesus Christ, these guys are huge. It really lends itself super, super well to conveying, like, rather than having to like try to like superimpose these characters as being larger. Like, there's no like, Peter Jackson.
There's no egg crates.
A cart that's like
5-inch
12 feet
heels.
apart. Yeah, nothing. No Lord
Yeah.
Farquaad walking around on stilts kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's like, hey, Hollywood, it can be done. You can actually hire people that fit
Yeah,
roles.
like, she's legitimately that much taller than her in this picture. She's a large.
Step on
person.
me, mommy. Like, Jesus.
And I remember people saying, "Oh, this show's all woke because she's got pink hair," and it's like, well, it's gun grease she's stuck in there because she's changing out. She's feeling emotions for the first time. It's like, let me just do something different. I just want to. She wants to rebel essentially against.
Can I voice one of my biggest problems with this episode is this, like, that stuff with it. I have zero problem with it happening. I think that it makes a lot of sense for that to happen for Kai. I think it is Kai, right? Not Vi. I keep thinking it's
Kai.
Vi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I feel like the transition from her removing her pellet to her like dyeing her hair and then having like this scene again, like, I think that it would work well just maybe in a later episode where she has like girl talk with Keys, with Miranda.
Yeah, she's immediately like, let's talk about feelings.
Quickly. Yeah, like
She was even before when she
was
had the
definitely the more
pellet. She
erratic.
was the most like empathetic one.
Totally.
I bet you if Vanek took it out, and Travis posted this on the forums, and it was really funny. Like, it'd be funny if Riz takes it out and she's more emotional and normal, but then Vanek takes his out and he's the exact same.
Yeah,
Just nothing changes with him. She was definitely the
he
most
has
that
the placebo
edge
one.
for me. Yeah, the placebo
I
shit.
just like, I really like the characters. Like, I think everyone's doing a great job again with the material that they have. But like, for it to have been the scene where Kai's taking the pellet out of her back, and then we get a Madrigal scene, and then within minutes we get a scene where she dyes her hair. I was like, come on, man! Like, this would have been super cool later on if it felt a little bit more earned. But it feels like they're playing into these weird, like, well, women are emotional, so obviously she's gonna like rebel super hard and dye her hair and like, this like weird.
Well, also, I
stuff
don't
that
think so. Like,
love.
look where they are. They have like no color, and it's bland. And then she finally realizes, wow, red is a really nice color, And
she has hair.
I don't know. Maybe just put yourself in a different perspective, because she's lived in a metal world with no color for so long, and now is realizing how beautiful things can be. And
And it was gun grease, right? Like, that was the
Yeah.
It wasn't like
Yeah.
she was just noticing how
No, of
nice
course.
the red looked.
I guess for me it happened faster than I expected.
Yeah, I think that's the point you're making,
that's
and
the
I
only problem that I have with it
Yeah.
is that it happened faster than I anticipated it would.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, taking some of those scenes in isolation, I'm cool with them. I do like Kai as a character, and I think the actress actually, is doing a good job. That is one area that for me personally, it worked for me. But the thing that doesn't, or the thing that again stands out, it is just like it's like, if you build up to these things, there's more of a transition. It feels better, and I just feel like things are just too abrupt. It's like, we're here now, and now we're here, and I get why you're here, but like, it doesn't feel very smooth how they get from one thing to another to now she's having this conversation, and it's like, I like that conversation she had with Miranda, when she's like, like, you're weird because you're human. And I kind of like that thing, right? Like, where
Totally.
she's like, oh, hey, we're sisters. I actually, that to me made sense, right? It's like, hey, we're having this realization that this person is basically both of our mothers, and she was shitty to both of us. And, and so that connection was good. I enjoyed that part. But like, then you just have like these things that just kind of just go, well, wait a second. Like, well, first of all, like, when the other Spartan walked in on her, what's her name? Is it Kaz or
Riz.
Riz, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Riz. When
No, I'm kidding.
Riz walks in on her, and it's like, doesn't know it. Like, here's a Spartan. Doesn't even. It's like, are you okay? Doesn't
I'm
even.
pretty sure she noticed, but they all trust each other, and I don't think she cared.
Yeah.
That's
She's
one
not
thing
going to
I'm
show an
happy-
emotion.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, but yeah, just like, don't. I don't know. Just like, say something about the thing in the back. I don't know. It's like, you gotta. why are you bleeding in your back? I don't know, something. Did somebody shoot you?
She looked down, she saw she took her pellet out, and she probably immediately told Halsey, and Halsey's like, oh. I'm
Yeah,
sure
Riz,
So-
Riz definitely knew more than what she let Kai think she knew. Like, she had, like,
Maybe.
the bandage on her back, the bloody knife she was...
Right.
Like,
and she wasn't
Riz-
trying to
Riz
hide.
was
They don't
dumb,
hide anything from each
100%.
other.
Yeah,
I don't think she's
Didn't
trying
they
to-
already
yeah.
knew that Chief took his out? So she
Yeah,
was like,
Kai
"Oh,
had
I guess
seen it,
you
and
too now."
yeah.
I want to clarify, because I see a couple people in chat, like, understandably, like, rebuttaling. It's just, I feel like it's totally all justified, 100%. I don't think that dyeing your hair is girly. I've dyed my hair a million times.
I could dye mine.
It's just that I think, in my opinion, it happened too quickly. Like, even Chief, like, having the moment with the dog almost makes sense that it happened as quickly as it did for him, because he touched the artifact and those kickstarted all of these memories. I feel
But
like
when
Chief
you're
had, like, a
when you're
kickstart.
flooded with emotions you've never had before, why wouldn't things happen quickly?
No, totally, and that's maybe it's my misunderstanding of how quickly that transaction happens. Maybe that's the only real problem with it, is it didn't read like it was an all at once thing. It given Chief's, like, progression through it, it seemed like it was a little bit more elongated than what it was for Kai. But, like, at the end of the day, I think it's totally fine. Like I said, I think the only thing that was an issue for me was how quickly it happened.
Yeah, which I can get. Like, I guess I get it both ways. It does seem like, because
You would get it
somebody.
both ways.
Oh yeah. So somebody, like, I have a daughter who's she's almost 17 now, but, like, a few years ago, it's like one day I just come to and see the tub that has red dye all over it because she decided to dye her hair. Like, I feel like that's what she's going through. She's going through that, like, I'm a teenager, I'm discovering myself, and that's what these Spartans all seem like they're kind of doing right now a little bit. I think that's the messaging they're doing. So I think I understand what they're trying to do, but I think to maybe what Austin's trying to say is just kind of like how you're landing it sometimes is like, maybe you could just throw in a little bit more to kind of, like, make it seem
I'm trying to know the passage of time on everything, like what's going on, because if it really is Chief going all the way to Aridinus and they're going all the way to Madrigal, if they're going by their previously given logic, that's probably about a month, like maybe more.
Totally, I think it might.
Oh,
be
maybe.
If the show doesn't make that clear,
pacing problem.
No,
for the
it
show
doesn't.
Is
Yeah.
like, some things are happening faster for Chief, some things are happening slower for Chief, and, like, it totally could have even been, like, we have zero idea how long that gap was between, like, her taking it out and, like, her dyeing her hair, because, like, in my perception of it, and again, I may have just, like, missed something important here, but, like, it the way it happened in my perception of it was that it was virtually back to back. Like,
Yeah.
it was
If it's pretty much an
essentially
on-off
immediately.
switch, like if it's not these things that it just has to run through your system. If it is the sci-fi, doesn't happen in real life, but it happens in
Right.
science fiction, on-off switch, and then you're immediately flooded with things you've never felt before, then I'd get
It
it.
felt kind of
Yeah,
impromptu
totally.
to me. It would be like, let's say, like, you have that thing, and then you're holding an apple, but you don't care how it tastes, you don't do it. Then you take the pellet out, and you eat the apple, right? First thing you do is take a bite. That's kind of what it felt like to me. She had the grease literally in her hands. She was working on her weapon, right? And she's like, let me try this. That's all I took from it.
Totally.
And I do think
Yeah.
that travel is a quicker in the show than it is in the media. I personally think. I don't think it's probably been like maybe a week or two. I feel is the impression I get.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, because in the books it really is such a
Oh, yeah.
stickler, and then it's nothing they ever stuck to in the games.
Mhm.
They would just end up having, like, Forerunner portals that could go super
Yeah.
fast if they needed. Like for a movie or a TV, like, unless you're the Expanse, like, actual science when you're going across the galaxy is never going to work unless you get to the point of warp tunnels that are like instantaneous, which they never did in the books because they wanted things to feel. Because you can take as long as you want in a book. You can have a book go over the course of
right.
10 decades if you feel like, but a TV show, they got to be snappier. So
Yeah, or in a book you could be like George R.R. Martin and make, like, 5 minutes take a decade, but and go the other direction. But yeah, like, it's funny as I'm sitting here thinking about it. I mentioned my daughter. I'm like, you know what? Never mind everything I just said. When you have a kid that becomes a teenager, they do have an on and off switch every day, every few minutes. Things change very, very quickly. And that makes total sense now that I kind of thought about it that
Spartan
way.
puberty is a terrifying thought.
It is awful.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've had their puberty suppressed. So imagine all
They're
of a
like
sudden
gymnasts.
being in 13-year-old puberty again.
When you're
How would you be?
45 years old.
What was I gonna say? Also, they literally in the episode they mentioned the fact that it was like a teenage act of rebellion.
Yeah,
For sure.
Absolutely. That's kind of. I think that's what they're
saying.
signifying.
I do think the material was solid. Like the way that Kai and Miranda interact, I thought was great. I just felt like it happened too quickly. It was like
I can do
my
that,
only thing with it.
But hey, on the flip side,
It's solid, but it's not solid, right?
9 out of 10.
on the flip side, now we can move on to other things. That's cool, right?
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about Miranda so far?
Much better this episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Apparently that's some
thought,
good material.
yeah, I thought she kind of came across better. I wasn't really sure how that was going. I thought that for whatever reason, I liked her this episode. So her and Kai in general, I think they were probably if I were to like rank scenes or moments in it, I'd put her that over the Master Chief stuff, definitely over the Quan Ha and Soren stuff. So yeah,
And I looked
that's
up,
probably
she's
my
actually
high point.
5'7". That's how tall they are in their boots. To
Jesus.
make her look that short.
Also, Vanek was the best in this episode. I loved his lines. Oh my god.
Dude, talking about his pig. What was the pig's name?
Oh
Zod.
yeah,
funny.
yeah. Man, Halsey is like now. So I haven't read all the books. You guys have read all the books. Is she as much? She's as much of a monster in the books, right?
She's just by the
more
means,
one, I
like
think.
to the extreme. If she thinks this is worth doing to forever noble reason she has in her mind, she will do whatever the hell she needs to get it done.
I mean, killing this pig.
You know what I
Making him
like
kill
about
his
that?
pig.
Though? I like that they gave a pseudo way out, right? Usually when that trope is used, where it's like you raise a pet, then you kill it to make sure you can't feel anything, right? It's like you have to no matter what. But in this discussion, they gave the way out where they're like, if you win, you don't kill the pet. And I'm like, well, that's cool. But then even if you win, the pet still dies. So I thought that was kind of a cool reversal too. That scene told me a lot about Halsey's character, I felt.
I thought it was a very, very good scene. I loved the sibling thing that they do specifically say at one point later on, but that like even Miranda's like, I always thought like my mom liked you guys more than me. Like I always thought that she cared about you guys more than me. I can't imagine y'all ever had fun. They're like, oh no, we had a great time. We had pets. I had a dog. Like Riz had a cat. Vinnick had a pig, and we all loved our animals, but they all died. So,
Oh man, if she gave Chief a dog, I swear that's pretty sadistic.
They died as we all hunted each other's pets.
Right. Him saying like, "No, I never lost," and then for Miranda to go like, "Oh, so you
I was
got
glad,
to keep
right?
your pig," and he was like, "Oh no, we terminated it." She's like, "You mean like you got rid of it, right?" He was like, "No, we killed it." No attachment. Spartans love each
Also, we
other
get
and
to see a
nothing else.
Needler.
Yes, that was cool.
Needler looks nice. I'm interested to see how it looks all lit up with the pink needles.
And it was
I-
also the Rosetta Stone.
Yes.
I was like, the Needler is the Rosetta Stone.
I want to see them unload a clip and then just see somebody explode. I mean, that's what.
But we know there's a fight coming that has jackals and grunts who are using them, and that's I wouldn't be surprised if that was like next week because of I don't know if you've seen the preview for next week. It's taking place it's all about the artifact and so but I didn't. All I saw was that they're trying to get that artifact. It's probably very big and heavy, knowing the Forerunners. So yeah, I'm real interested to see what the friggin'
Hey, the
Kigyar and
episode
Ungoy look
episode
like.
title's cool, right? So I'm looking forward to that.
I haven't seen the episode title yet,
called
so I'm going in
Reckoning.
blind.
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
hopefully. They're like I think the next episode's kind of important for the audience and everything
Yes.
like that. So hopefully
it's basically
that
the
is
no, right? So it
yeah,
needs to
because
be-
I don't think you can go like I think these are fine if but you got to do something big, I think soon. But one thing I didn't want to skip over though, I think you guys are mentioning it with the animals and all that. They did mention that the Spartans basically are trained so they only trust each other, right? Like that aspect of it. So going back to what you were saying earlier, they probably wouldn't be tattling on each other then, right? I mean, unless they got Halsey has that on.
Halsey's
I don't
probably
know.
one of them, right? I imagine they consider.
Yeah, she's the one that counts, that matters the most. But like he even said, like what's so special about Master Chief, and he's like, well, he's the Master Chief. It's like,
Yeah, that was
everything
a
he's
nice
done,
one.
he's just incredible. He's great at it, and we trust him implicitly. So if they know he took his chip out, or he took his suppressant out, they'll just be like, okay, I trust you on this. Like, they are fully committed to each other, like on everything. That's why they don't. She didn't hide anything, and the other woman wasn't going to worry about it because they trust each other when she's taking out the thing from her back. It's a difficult concept because none of us ever trust each other. Like, I look at OBM and I just immediately think, wow, when's he going to stab me in the back? We don't think that way.
One thing I thought was done pretty well this episode was it showed that the pellets are getting in the way, right? You have these soldiers that have fought numerous battles on the ground, and by suppressing their emotions and their thoughts, basically, you're removing an entire asset of thing. Like, just the three of
They're
them.
really smart.
Yeah, they're really smart. I really liked how they talked about that. How we know this, we know that, we know this, and then also their real life experience came into play. And like, yeah, so we know this, we know that, and I'm hoping that's like the catalyst towards, hey, maybe we should remove this whole pellet system. Like, it looks like they're more useful.
Yeah, that's the Halsey side of things, where she looks at you as a tool and what you can do for her. In the moment you don't do exactly what she wants, you're out. As where her daughter, who is also very smart, is like, well, you guys know all this shit. You fought the Covenant quite a bit so far. Let's work together to figure out their language, and they're able to get a whole bunch of it down. Like, Halsey's very smart. She's also very single-minded so far in this, and I think it's really
right. I feel like Halsey just cannot trust someone fully, no matter what. She's kind of like Batman and Batman or Superman before Martha, you know.
Did anyone else yell at their television when Kai said Halo?
I mean, I've said Halo with her because
She
I
was
saw
like,
the trailer,
Sacred Ring, Halo.
Halo.
I was like, ah!
All right. So I think that kind of covers that angle a bit. Let's see here. We won't spend any time. I was just kidding. We're not going to spend any time talking about Mr. Gorman's skinny ass.
Man's in shape. I'll give him that.
He definitely doesn't carry a whole lot of fat on him. So anybody else? So we talked about Master Chief's helmet, all that stuff. That's kind of a controversy. I guess that's one thing
It's going to be a forever controversy.
Yeah,
some people just can't handle that.
I got
in
over
the books,
it, I guess.
in everything, they don't wear their helmets when they're not in an active friggin' war zone all the time. Like they take it off, and they take all their. You always see them getting their armor taken off, and the friggin' even in the game cutscenes and shit. It's just.
The only thing I didn't care for is like, okay, then why did you wear your armor at all if you're just going to take it off as soon as your helmet off while you're driving around anyways? So it's like if somebody if there's
it's not like he can just pop it on if it turns out there's a threat.
But he had
obviously at this point in the show, Master Chief does not know about the jackal snipers yet. If he knew about the jackal snipers, he'd wear his helmet every time he left the house.
No, but he only took it off when he was looking at his house, though, right? At least that's what I remember. He had it on for the ride.
Yeah, he had it on going up to the house, and sort of. It felt like he just more wanted to see things through his eyes again,
to immerse himself,
them.
not just eyes, nose, the air. So that was I kind of understood why it. It made sense to me.
The smells, the sights, the sounds, everything just coming into your head like you remembered it when you were there as a kid before your parents were probably murdered by Halsey and you were abducted.
Yeah, I wonder what
whole planet
that all was.
I love when
all right.
I thought it was great when Chief hopped into the Warthog to like go and take them to where he thought this cave was, or I guess knew where it was. That he really seemed reluctant to let Halsey even get in the Warthog. He really seemed like he was like, "You better get your ass in. I want to leave you here." I thought that was,
she lied. She knew that memory was real, and he knew she was lying.
Oh yeah.
He already didn't really trust her. He was already hoping he could trust her, and anything that's going to erode that now, and with all these emotions and shit coming through, he's just going to be like,
yeah.
But he's still focused on the main task, right? Which is what I love about the Chief. How they're showing him in the show is that he has other things to worry about, but he knows like when the going gets tough, you got to focus on the big picture, which is what he's doing right now. So I'm curious if when the fallout, because the fallout will happen eventually, right? It's definitely in this season. Yeah,
they're building up to it.
Yeah,
that is not a look of trust. That is a look of no. That was real, asshole. I know what I freaking saw and remembered. Oh no, Joan, that was your memories of they're getting all mixed together. Like no, your brain's a banger and mash.
all right, guys. So, guys and gal, is there any other segments that you guys wanted to jump to before we do like our kind of our cap, and then we're gonna move on to some actual game
I'm good.
topics. You're good. You guys, all right. Let's do the round table. Give you guys a score this week. We'll start. We'll start with Amanda this time. Amanda, your overall, and then your score.
I pretty much agree with everybody. I didn't like the Quan stuff as much. I think they're wasting Soren as a character, but everything else was fine. So I guess overall, like a 7.5.
Okay.
Again.
Mr. Pfhorbear, how about you, sir?
I think they're basically exactly what Amanda said. You know, I think that they're missing a lot of potential with characters. I think that they are wasting valuable screen time for more important events by focusing so much on magical. I wish that the stuff with Kai had been given more attention so that it didn't feel so immediate for me anyway. Probably a 7.
Fair. All right, Mr. Soul.
Yeah. So when I initially first watched it, I was more down in the episode than I am like right now, for example, just because the Quan stuff was like a big drag. But then I don't know. I'm an optimist, so hey, they got 5 more episodes. If they can turn that story arc around, if they can show Quan Ha having a teeny bit of humility, you know what I mean, just a little bit, right? Like I get it, your family was killed. Sure, you're talking to a lady that had her whole planet glassed. You know what I mean? Like either way. Overall, though, I like the other stuff. Silver Team was great. Chief continues to be awesome. In line with my other reviews, I'd give it a 7.
All right. How about you, Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, I'd be pretty similar. Like, I thought the Silver Team stuff was as good as the show has been, if not the best the show has been. The Chief stuff I thought was very good. And then the Quan Ha stuff is just bad. And it was a little less than, like, going through all the clips, it was about a third for each. It's just the Quan Ha stuff felt so much longer. So I'd be in that like 7.5 range. If the Quan Ha stuff had been better, it would be like an 8 or better, because I really like the other. I liked 2/3 of the episode and disliked 1/3, so I'll go 7.5.
All right. Wow. I hate being like the I guess I'm gonna have to start going in the middle a little bit, because I always come up with the lowest score. When you make a sandwich, you know, like you always put the negative stuff in the middle. You put some more positive in the front of it.
Just go ahead and be that person.
I am. No, this week was my least favorite of the shows, and the I just can't, like, for me, I can't like overlook the Quan Ha stuff, because it was such a focal point, and that's kind of what I come away thinking of most of it. I mean, as we kind of come back and delve into some details, I'm like, yeah, I did like that stuff, but I just feel like that was overshadowed by some junk that just I think that is what people are going to remember, and it's what I remembered when I was watching the show. So I came away feeling like I was in the low 6s, and since you guys are going to make me round to like a 0.5, I'd probably be more like a 6.2-ish, but I'm going to round it down to 6 this week. So,
yeah.
But as a podcast, it sounds like, you know, if we were kind of taking the average, we're probably close to 7. You know, right?
Hey,
High
but
6s,
are you taking into account that we had 2 butts in this episode?
Yeah, like how are they gonna?
At least a half a point, right?
No, you know what? Mr. Gorman's butt is. I don't want to see that ever again, to be honest with you. So I'm actually lowering. I probably lowered it a little bit because I don't need to see his butt.
Surprised his butt didn't have a mustache to twirl of its own.
No. If his butt did have a mustache, I might raise it a little bit, but it didn't. And now we got to wonder. You know, we've gone. It seems like every week we go from like a half a butt to like a butt to 2 butts. So how are they gonna one up themselves next week?
Cortana butt.
Cortana butt. Oh man! So all right. I mean, but like I said, it's not like a death knell or anything like that. I think it was just the show, but I still think there's potential.
Yeah, I mean, it's a TV show that's gonna have 2 seasons.
It's gonna have
every
up and
episode's gonna
downs,
be a
too.
full-on banger every time.
No, it's not. And even my favorite shows are not like that every week. So usually you remember the big ones that stick out. And I'm hoping next week is something that can kind of bring some momentum back. So next week will be interesting, because I think what we'll want to do is we'll be at that. literally be just past the halfway point of the show. So it'll be interesting to come back and kind of talk about where, like, give it like a mid-season feeling, not just for the episode. So that'd be fun to kind of
I have a
put it all
feeling
together.
we might not see Halo this season. Like, at least not like someone physically or like the chief physically sees it on the ship.
They got to, right? Like,
I think they'll get there at least. I think the final scene might be them coming to the Halo. I mean,
Like, if they don't
it's got
just reach in this season, then we don't see Halo, assuming they're following that deadline.
I don't assume
I don't think that they
that's true.
are, given that, like, this early, Kai's already using the word Halo, which is way further than they were in the games, of course, or even in the expanded universe stuff. But I imagine, like Amanda said, that at the very least it'll be like the last shot will probably be like the Pillar of Autumn or something similar, like flying towards the Halo.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right,
And
guys.
Season 2 opens with it getting shot to shit by Covenant as they crash into the Halo.
That'd be cool too.
All right, so
Alright,
I
I'm
think
gonna cut off Abe again.
no, it's fine. You can cut me off anytime you guys want. But actually, no. That you've used your quota. It's time to move on to some other topics, and I just retweeted because I think we're going to move on to a big topic that I don't think we plan on covering this week. It's probably worth its own show. So I don't know. Maybe we'll just cover this
We
high
don't have enough
level.
info about it yet, really.
Yeah, there's a lot we can say though, especially because we can talk about all the positivity that Soul probably saw on Reddit right after they talked about a Halo BR, right? And like just kind of read off all those positive, all the positive feedback from the Halo community that's been dying for Halo to do something different for a long time, right? Soul?
That reminds me, I should check that out. I mean, this is very recent information. Only dropped. It was in what's his face's thing, right? The Xbox 2. Jess just gave some more information to the CA mode.
So let me read it. There's a summary. Actually, I'm going to Reddit right now. Here we go.
Watch out,
try
Abe.
not to read. Try not to read too far down and ruin my attitude before the weekend. But Jez Corden did give details about certain affinities, Halo Infinite game mode, and the latest Xbox 2, which happened a few hours ago. So everybody, if you haven't heard it, go check it out. I think it looks
Rand,
like that.
a host of that show, was in our chat earlier. So go give him a view.
Yeah, absolutely. Love Jez and Rand. So awesome people within our community. So if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. I think it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes in. It's what it looks like it was bookmarked at. But so the mode that Certain Affinity is working on, we all kind of suspected that it was going to be a big mode. We weren't sure exactly, but according to Jez, it is a battle royale. It's been in development for over 2 years. So that's, I think, a really big nugget, because when we saw some of those job postings, I think maybe we assumed they were just ramping up to it. So this is something that's been ongoing for a while. They do consider it a Warzone separate game undertaking. The goal is so basically, speaking of Warzone, like Call of Duty Warzone, so it's going to have its own big team dedicated to it, that's not going to interfere with arena stuff. And I got to mention that for the Reddit crowd that thinks that they're going to ruin everything else in Halo. The goal is to bring in new players.
They can update Halo MCC, but they can't update Halo Infinite. I was like, well,
They can publish a cookbook.
oh, they get this
dare they.
encyclopedia out, but we can't get any more maps. The art teams.
yeah, we can. We gave up our maps for this. Just to get this encyclopedia, it costs you a map. But you know what? That's a good encyclopedia, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's.
I just ordered. Wait,
I'm not sorry. I'm not.
There's your
sorry.
Hang 'em High remake, boys.
Okay, who the heck is asking for that?
I would love that.
That's what I.
So the goal is to bring new players into the Halo franchise because the old players are just such pieces of shit. Sorry. And I'm We love you all.
That is the official stance of all of XboxEra. I just want to put that out there.
But you know, we gotta be clear. It is that I game with a lot of people that love Halo that are. I mean,
it's the loud, annoying community
yeah.
online, not
Yeah.
not the actual match.
We have people that are critical, but they still, they're not assholes, right? So, but then you go to Reddit. So we need to bring some new blood into Reddit for sure when it comes to Halo. So they're targeting the Fortnite Warzone Apex audience. Believes it's targeting season 3 or 4. Now that's interesting because that sounds really early, and it also ties into Forge mode. So maybe it's like a Fortnite creative. That was somebody.
I always thought that would be the best way to do it. Like you have the base mode, but then you let people build off of that, and like it being an offshoot of Forge in a way makes a lot of sense for how stupidly complicated Forge is. And if it's a way that you can also build in firefight mode and a whole bunch of stuff like that, I think that would be my dream, essentially.
Yeah. There's a lot of potential here. And then they said they brought in certain affinity for this specific mode. And basically they want to clarify that this is not to ignore the rest of the game. This is, and for anybody that doesn't know how Warzone is set up with Call of Duty, it is its own studio.
Raven Software, makers of games like Soldier of Fortune, are literally it's all they do is work on Warzone because that game makes a lot of money.
Yep. So it's going to have its own team, its own dedicated, its own studio, and the people that are making the arena maps and big team battle maps will continue to make that stuff. This will be something off to the side. And then this wasn't mentioned in the Reddit post, but for just to reiterate, I think we mentioned it in previous episodes. Certain Affinity is led by Max Hoberman. He's like basically the granddaddy of the Halo sandbox in multiplayer, right? He used to be with Bungie. He was their lead multiplayer developer, and really he's been his team since he's moved on to start his own studio at Certain Affinity has been brought back by 343 to help out in multiple things. He did some work on the Halo 2 remake, those maps. He's done work, I think, in Halo 4. I don't know if he did Halo 5, but
They've been doing maps since Halo 2. They published the first ever map pack that they developed. It was Tombstone and one other map in April of 2007, and they have provided maps for every Halo game since.
CA, right?
Yep. CA. So that's a really good studio. I mean, for multiplayer stuff, they have a lot of experience. They worked on maps and modes for other shooters as well. So they're well versed in not just Halo but other things. So let's go ahead and I want to start with Pfhorbear this time. What's your thoughts, man, on everything I just said?
I think that there's a lot of interesting information here. The thing that has me the most skeptical about this, and again, like I don't think that Jez is completely wrong. There have been rumors about like Certain Affinity's mode, like what they might be working on. There have been a couple of screenshots that have leaked, different hints that have pointed to different versions of things that could either be just a straight up BR mode or like a Warzone / Invasion crossover, all of that kind of stuff. The biggest thing that stands out to me here that is like the thing that I'm skeptical of is that it's been in development for over 2 years. I just don't see a ton to back that up.
Could be like
the
early
game
production, pre-production, could be like
Oh no, absolutely. I think that given the fact that like Infinite didn't even really start development until like mid 2018, giving it 2 years of over 2 years of development time would put it somewhere in 2019, and like that it does work out. That could totally be possible, but I feel like the amount of work that you would need for the engine to be able to handle something like a BR mode with that many players and all of that fun stuff, you think that some of the work that went in on that would have been reflected in the engine that we got with the base game, and I just don't feel like that there's enough evidence to support that big of a change coming to the game. I could be completely wrong about that. Yeah. I think that it sounds fantastic. I'd love for Halo to have a battle royale. It's not something I'd be interested in playing. It's not really my thing. I've been saying the same thing for a few months now, that I think Halo Infinite needs a battle royale like it needs PvE. It really doesn't need either, but both would be phenomenal for the game's health, for the game's population, the game's popularity. I think it sounds great. I'd love to see. In general, I'm excited to see whatever Certain Affinity is working on. Period. And if it's a battle royale, especially one that comes out swinging for the fences, I think it'd be awesome.
I think the term battle royale, it might be a little misleading. I feel. I don't think it's. I know they say it's going to be competing with Warzone and Apex and things like that, but I feel like it's going to have its own Halo identity. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is, I don't do battle royale ever. I've played 6 of them, and I've played like 3 matches of all 6. And the most fun I had was in the match of like PUBG, because it was super tense, right? Or not my genre, but it's just a gut feeling. There's no real fact behind it or anything, but I just feel like Infinite's whatever mode they're doing, whatever CA is doing, CA knows Halo, right? And I hope they know Infinite, you know? So I think whatever they're releasing is going to be a battle royale in name, but not one in practice. Not how we think of it, is what I hope.
Or it could be their spin
was
on it. Right.
There was
ahead.
a rumor a while back about big team battle.
Yep.
Where it was like
I was about to say
8
the same
teams
thing.
against each other and that type of stuff. Like that type of big ass, much longer than normal. Maybe possibly having some form of loot where it's you get these not tiers of guns, but just finding guns and vehicles and stuff. And the Halo big team battle spin on a battle royale where it's a big team battle royale, like that type of mechanic. And they've got the rezzing. Like they've got the wall, they've got those mechanics in Arena already. Like, and I don't think 2 years is crazy because so much of it is tied to Forge, and Forge has been in the works for longer than that. So
that's totally fair. If like especially like that specific point in this is
and there's the
true,
thing,
then.
like the way Jez normally talks, if he says he's heard something, he says he's heard, but on this he's just stating it as something he has like proof of. So normally, if he's saying that this is what it is, then he's got documentation. Because unlike, say, like Nick literally just gets DMs and he'll say, I'm just a puppet with strings. Jez is an actual reporter, unlike all of us, enthusiasts. And so if he's saying it's been 2 years, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, it's so much of it is tied to Forge, which has been, I imagine, an insane headache because you are building a game engine within a game engine and giving people control and trying to make sure. I bet you a big thing with Forge is trying to make sure people can't like hack the entire game with it. Because when you give that level of control, people are very smart. And I imagine their security is already so tough being free to play that if you've got a free to play at this level of scripting, like it's a lot of work. So making any modes that are tied to it are going to have, you just knew they were going to have a lot of lead time. So
I think you're right. There's, like you said, there's already stuff that exists in the game that totally points to it being viable, right? Like even weapons that you encounter in a multiplayer match or even in the campaign are all tiered in their outlines. Like power weapons have like golden outlines, more casual weapons have the blue outlines. Stuff like the AR and the sidekick just have like a gray outline. Like
and they've got
weapons,
the unique variants that could be like the special thing you find on the map, and which we haven't seen anything with the variants.
Even
yet, right?
even in training mode, no, like they only exist in campaign. Even in Fiesta, they're not in there. But even in the academy, there's a loot box that will open and give you the weapon you're going to use for training drills. So I would not be surprised. I've never doubted that a BR would come to the game. I guess I'm. This is one of the few things that I'll just be skeptical about until I see it myself.
Yeah, I think
that Jez is pretty much right on the money as far as all of this goes. I have faith in him. I think that this has a ton of validity to it.
By the way, how am I sounding? Am I still robot?
Nope,
No,
you're
you sound
good.
good.
Okay, good. It is the Discord.
It was
gotta keep that.
approaching robot when the last time you talked, but then it sort of, it was like you were like
kind of go up
you were
and down
half a
through that.
Cyberman. You hadn't been fully converted yet.
Okay, that's all right. So yeah, it's interesting,
full-on
Jesse.
robot.
Am I full on robot now? Oh my
No.
son of a bitch.
No, you're not. You're good. You're good.
So Jesse, I was actually going to mention that too because those rumors of the like 8v8, the big team, the big team battle mode, were, I think those were like middle of 2020, weren't they? Like, it was around the E3. It was around the time that I remember all the controversy about the video that they were talking about it. So the 2-year thing doesn't sound outlandish. Now, there's always a nuance to that, right? Because like Starfield has been in development 8 years, but it's not really been in development 8 years, right? Because do you count the pre-production and the ideation stage, and how much of it is tied to Forge? Are they kind of building this along with Forge, and maybe that's why it makes sense that it's coming out within a season, within a season of Forge's launch. So maybe that does make sense. If they're kind of testing out, the capabilities of it, why wait? I mean, we know the community is going to do crazy stuff with Forge, but if you could do something cool with it right off the bat, why not? Why not get that out there as soon as you can? So, and Certain Affinity is one of those studios that, again, like I said before, is somebody that, that understands. They understand the franchise. They understand Sandbox. I had to say that at least a couple times because Jesse likes me to say it in the show. But they do get that stuff. And I remember even back when they were interviewing Max Hoberman. I think it was Ryan McCaffrey was interviewing him and talking about the things that they did for Halo 4, for example. And he talked about building some of the maps there, and he talked about these would have been better received had the sandbox been different and things like that. They get that aspect, they get the balancing, the flow of the games, and so I think that's something for those who aren't really who don't know who the studio really is. That those are things to be excited about if you are a Halo fan, because they've been connected to it. And in general, I'm not a BR guy. I don't play Apex. I don't play Fortnite. I don't play Warzone. I've tried them sort of. I don't have the patience for it. I like to just get back in there and I like things to move pretty fast in my shooters. But I am looking forward to Halo's community branching out, and I think what they've done initially with the game was to appease us hardcore Halo fans out the gate, right? Hey, you get your sandbox back. You've been asking for that for years, basically. In the single player, they did that. They kind of brought back the artwork. Again, to a lot of people's chagrin, if you're not a old school, or if you wanted the game to move on. But they really did cater to those of us that loved CE, loved Halo 2, Halo 3. And they did that with a single player and the multiplayer, right? They got the big team battles here on day one, even if it was just a few maps. That is part of the core multiplayer now, and the dynamic gameplay is back from what we would expect it before. So I think that was basically to cater to the base initially, and now it is time to grow the base. Because we're not going to be any happier than we already are. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself bunched in with a bunch of guys that are, been with Halo for about 2 decades, been bitching about it for about a decade and a half or more. So it's time, right? It's time for new blood.
In general, for CA to do a massive mode, whether it's BR or like the big team battle. I love the idea of it in general because it was Max Hoberman and his much smaller team than what was the Halo 2 multiplayer team at first.
Yeah.
That saved the arena multiplayer from it being like the massive scale, whatever, PvE, PvP thing that Bungie tried to do at first in Halo 2 and then again in Halo 3. I love the idea that it's coming full circle and he's like, all right, I'll give you a big mode and people are going to love it.
Yeah, and hopefully this is a studio that works with Microsoft and 343 for a long time, because a lot of potential there, I think. And
it is something tied into Forge that can do PvE firefight and whatnot, because that's one of the things I love playing. I know it's something I'd finally be able to play with Amanda and my brother more, because she's not. I don't think you're going to be that big into a BR, but if it's something PvE and it's just us playing against the computer and it's That's the type of fun stuff you can just jump into a ton, and
well, guys,
that's my jam.
If only there was a new firefight experience to be had these days. I don't know if you've heard, but the Master Chief Collection did just get a fat update. Not to cut off the conversation about this.
No, go ahead.
We're good.
I think this ties in. I think this actually ties in a little bit, but yeah. Go ahead.
It's. So the Master Chief Collection just got a massive update with all sorts of really cool stuff that the community has been asking for. back in November, 343 did say that they would continue to update the MCC, just not on the seasonal cadence that they have been. They wouldn't introduce any new seasonal content. It would just kind of, as things become feature complete, as things are ready enough for the public to help test them out, they'd push them out. The biggest things that this update includes are things like Halo 4 customization. Now it works in campaign. 18 new skulls across Halo 2, 3, and ODST. Things like the coolest things, in my opinion, included in this update are crossplay campaign for Halo 3 and ODST. Abe and I did a little bit of that the other night, and it worked fantastically. I was super stoked about that. I really hope that eventually that will come to the other titles. They did say that was kind of their experimental feature in this, so I'm sure that once that gets a little bit more love, that we'll see it expand, just like the custom games browser did with this update, where it blew up, and now every game in the Master Chief Collection is in the custom games browser. The other cool thing, in my opinion, is of course the flood fight, the flood-based firefight addition to Halo 3 ODST's sandbox. So instead of it just being the typical, campaign enemies, brutes and grunts and jackals, they've introduced the flood firefight mode, which works on every map. It adds a really cool haze effect to the map whenever the round starts. So you get that flood feeling. You are an ODST, so you're much weaker against this stuff. They've introduced new animations so that the flood can drive vehicles on the larger maps, which they haven't been able to do since Halo 2.
Cool. What the heck?
Yeah.
I can't even do that in Infinite yet, but we're going to talk about that too.
There's actual new content here, and it's all really exciting. I think another really cool aspect to this is the boons that they've added, so you can have AI companions with you. Some of the maps they're Marines, some of the maps they're elites, which is really cool. And then weapons that weren't previously available, like the energy sword, assault rifle, and battle rifle, are all in ODST Firefight now.
Really?
Yeah.
What? So I'm guessing the flood are the Halo 3 flood, right?
Yeah. It's all the Halo 3 models and everything. They just added animations. They can drive warthogs. They will shred your ass in a warthog. And they will absolutely plow through you on a ghost. One of the coolest things about the flood stuff is, because you're a human character playing, if you die, they will 100% resurrect your body and come at you as an ODST. It's super cool. Yeah.
What? Man, this is a big update. You guys played it, right? What you guys think?
Yeah, no, we played it. And here's the thing: I was only doing it because Pfhorbear, asked me to. Because I uninstalled Master Chief Collection. I thought I had moved on to Infinite for good. Kind of said my goodbyes, and I came back to this, and we played. I don't know, it was a little over an hour, but it really was a nice experience. It was, we kind of were just bullshitting, and it just
maybe somebody really should put together an XboxEra Halo Flood night.
God damn it! Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, Jesse, I thought you were going somewhere else with that. Yeah, I totally agree. I think that we should totally get a community event going. This content is so much fun.
It's 4 players, right?
Yeah, 4 players still. It'd be so nice.
You had me at Halo hang out with us as we play Flood Firefight?
Yeah, you had me at hang out with me and play Flood Firefight.
It rolls up.
I love that. It does. Yeah, very, very
but
easy.
You know what? One thing I wanted to say there, Pfhorbear, is that, one of the interesting things, and it was just kind of coming to me as I'm sitting there playing this. So I re-downloaded Master Chief Collection. I played the campaign, right before Infinite came out. I did the little legendary run, but I haven't really done a lot of the multiplayer or firefight or much of anything. I've done maybe a few hours really in the last few years. And I'm kind of taken back by how much content is there. And, again, I do think this kind of ties into Infinite because, and I know people don't like to hear the weight thing. And I get that. I'm not telling you how to feel about it, but I do like to just call out the potential because, it's they advanced the AI, they've advanced the animations, they've added a whole new game type to some really, really old game. To me, this just kind of, as I'm thinking about Infinite, I'm like, man, you could do some of the same things there and finally get these.
This is their sandbox. This is what they do to try things out for Infinite eventually.
Just said the word.
It's a normal word. It's just them using it 900 times a show was the joke.
You know, it's kind of funny. People were going on about like, look at Infinite. I mean, look at MCC. Look how much work they're doing. It's like, dude, it took them years to get to this point. Like,
They
spent a
gave up
lot of
on it for
time.
like 4 years.
Yep,
And then
a
they came
lot of
back to
work
it and were
get
like,
here, and it
we're going to
shows.
fix this.
Yeah.
If you look at the last 2 years, and I think that Jesse's making a really good point about and Abe and Ursula, that I hate to be like the live service games guy, but the MCC is a great tool to look at as far as like what 343 could be capable of as far as new features, cool new additions, like coming up with things that are just either like really fun, unique ideas that haven't been tried in Halo before, or even something that is like just a hotly requested thing in the community, like a battle royale. I think that 343 is more than willing to try just about anything, especially since, you know, I know I've joked about it before, but Infinite is at a bit of a low point right now, understandably.
It is.
It's been a few months since there's been content. Season 2 is coming. It's exciting. But I think that with the general fan consensus is like, what do we have to lose if we try something and it doesn't work out? Maybe a few months of work, maybe a year or two's worth of work, which that's rough. But in a live service game, like, you have to roll those dice. You have to take those chances.
Right.
Like the armor, right, for Halo 3. A lot of people didn't like it, but I was clearly like, hey, let's try this out. We want to have some fun.
I think that there's a ton of potential for even like reworking the way that armor cores work, and they've touched on all of that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think introducing cool new things and incentivizing people, like let's say this certain affinity BR mode comes out, I guarantee it'll have its own armor core tied to it. There will be cool ways to unlock permutations for armor with it. I think that there are a lot of easy ways for them to incentivize people to check out new and exciting things that they're trying with the game.
Hey, sorry, did you mention that Halo 4 customization is now in the campaign? You mean like your multiplayer Spartan can take the place of Chief?
Unfortunately, not without mods. The thing is your weapon skins and vehicle skins.
Okay. That makes sense. To be honest, because I'm like, wait, so I can take Mike's Halo 4 Spartan, this ugly POS, and put him in the emotional Chief and Cortana scene.
It is fun to see some of those mods. I think MCC has a wonderful modding community on PC right now. Something really weird that happened in MCC, like to kind of put a bow on the MCC conversation. A really weird thing that happened, I think unintentionally, but even if it was intentional, it's amazing, is the prototype Mongoose is now fully playable in Halo 2. You have to trick the game a little bit to get it to spawn. But without mods on console, you can totally get the Mongoose to spawn. The biggest caveat to it is you can't blow it up. You can't kill a driver with an explosion. You can shoot him off of it, but it's just not with an explosion. And you have to be playing as an elite to drive it. Spartans don't have an animation for it. And because Halo 2 button inputs are tied to animations, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think the gist of it, though, is like, and this goes back to what we were just talking about with Forge. I mean, we know there's scripting in there, right? Like, we just know there's so much that could be done, and you know, just seeing them, like seeing all the skulls they added, I started thinking about that. I was like, well, what could they add now to Halo Infinite? And the thing about like Infinite is like, you know, as wide as that game is, you know, like some of the areas to play in, like you could do some really fun things. And vary that and hide a bunch of skulls in the game, and you know, so we were messing around with a few of them, like the one where you like if you kneel, like you freeze in midair, like it just
the acrophobia.
Weird.
We turned on acrophobia. I tried to turn on skulls that I thought would stress the netcode for the crossplay campaign, and like it ran like butter, man. It was impressive.
Yeah.
The only issue I ran into was a very, very negligible amount of input latency when I was not hosting. But like I said, like completely negligible. I only noticed it because I don't normally have it.
Makes sense.
Yep. So yeah, PC console crossplay worked well there, and lots of, you know, that was a nice surprise. It's the reason why MCC's probably passed Infinite on Steam, just because of the, you know, because of the the new
here we
stuff
go.
there. Yeah. So, anyways, for people that are bringing that up, like, oh, this proves it's dead. No, it proves that people wanted to go back and try the new stuff. And,
Yeah,
and
it proves
MCC.
that new things will bring players back to the game.
Yes,
which,
that's what it proves.
Speaking of, season 2 for the Halo Infinite's right around the corner, and boy, oh boy, did we get a
15 days or
preview
something, like 19
of
days?
some really cool maps this week.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the maps that we got to see? I thought they looked fantastic. I'm excited to see the new modes and stuff on them.
Yeah. Well, I've been speaking a lot. So before you pass out, you want to say anything about the maps?
I did get some tea.
I can tell you are struggling, man. I think I need to take a second here to give some appreciation for being a
Sticking it
soldier.
out.
Yeah.
That's hot.
You know, Spartans
yeah.
never die.
Yeah, the maps. Man, I'm watching the video, and all I really wanted was for them to just kind of like look down and just zoom all the way up. Like show me the full layout of this map, please. I want to see it. And whatever, I'm okay with seeing it when I play it, but they look great. And what's funny is even the reception to the maps is really positive. People are like, "Damn, 343's flexing." They're like visuals because they look good. And if they're anything like the ones we currently have, they'll play good too.
Well, we know of so that everybody on Reddit is a shill, so that they would. Of course, they would say that. Of course, they would say that. Jesse, how about you, man? Like, do you have any thoughts about that? I know we've been kind of skipping over you here for the last.
I mean, I really didn't play that much Halo multiplayer because I just kept running into more and more reviews to do.
Right.
So I'll be happy to have a reason to go back. I really liked playing it. Mainly big team battle for me, like always. So they both looked great when I was going over them. All of their maps have played well in various ways, so I am very interested to see what these are like in practice, especially with some of the hazards and whatnot that are in them.
Yeah, and speaking of the big team battle, like this really looks like it's going to play very differently from the other 3 maps. It has its own personality, and really both the maps do. Like, to me, it's taking me back a little bit to classic Halo because you're getting some of the, if you think back to like Halo 2, like every map has like, you say the name, you know exactly what it looks like, right? Or you look at it, you know the name. They're like they more than almost any other shooter out there, and at least from that breadth. I know in Call of Duty there's some maps that everybody knows, but then you also only have like 3 or 4 maps you're ever going to play because everybody votes in the same shit when you play those games. I think they're starting to get back to that, and and yes, they do deserve criticism for the lack of content, but on the flip side, I do want to give them the kudos where they are earned, and I think that they don't really have a lot of duds so far, and these definitely look like they're both aesthetically have their own identity, and then even looking at some of the layouts and some of the play spaces in them, they look different than the other maps, and they really. That's one thing they did not do very good in Halo 5. I thought Halo 5 had a lot of things that felt very samey. As you kind of went through them. I mean, the game, I love the gameplay loop, but I think a lot of the maps really didn't stand out in that game, and they're getting back to that. Outside of the launch site, which I don't like, I don't really think they have like a dud out there. They all serve purpose somewhere.
Yeah, I think just talking to the point of aesthetics, right? Like, Catalyst calls so much back to maps like Epitaph and oh gosh, there's another map. There's another
Haven.
good pull. Haven. I think that it really does, and they even said basically that exact same thing in the article where they kind of talk about the inspiration for the maps. I think by far, like even as amazing as Catalyst looks, I think the most interesting map that will probably be in the game is Breaker. It stands out so hard, like you were saying, Abe. Like even just from like a color palette perspective, it is so different. It is so wildly different from anything. Like it's got this really cool deserty theme. It's all Banish themed, which we haven't gotten to see a ton of yet.
I have no idea what Jesse's doing.
Somebody
needs to take away the camera control.
You're right though, Pfhorbear. Especially like I feel like Breaker will be the map that they'll release, we'll play, and immediately it'll be like, wow, this is a lot of fun. While what's it called? Epitaph. What was the other map called? Epitaph. Yeah. Okay. Epitaph will be the map where it's like the more people play, the more they kind of find more little secrets and jumps and like little ways to get from this place quicker. You know, that kind of thing.
100%. There looks to be a lot of like really interesting like little nooks and crannies in Breaker. I'm so curious about Catalyst. I got the Haven vibes when they showed off that first screenshot.
I'm in Catalyst.
A lot of the footage that we've seen so far now really does evoke like the Epitaph vibes. I really love an abandoned Foreigner facility, like harkening back to like Halo 2 days, right? Where the things that we see in Halo 2 on Delta Halo are super like run down. The ring hasn't been maintained very well because its monitor has been out of commission. I super dig this aesthetic. I can't wait to get the lore on it to figure out what facility this is on, because all of the like, you know, big sort of panning shots that we got didn't make it look like it was on a Halo ring, which is even more exciting. Like, please give us cool new locations in the world or in the universe. I think both these maps look fantastic. I'm excited to play King of the Hill on them.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think we'll save it for another show, because I think when they do the full reveal, there'll be a lot to discuss on it, especially with the new mode. But
speaking of, by the way, next week there's a blog post coming talking about the 3 modes.
Okay, well then, I guess we need to count these like as all split episodes right now, because we went from spoiler our.
I was going to say, should we
people-
separate the show out from the regular Halo podcast? Maybe when there's news, like have a separate episode, maybe.
Well, that's what Ursel did when he just split the MP3 file.
Yeah.
I think for the YouTube, it's fine. Like, people will just drop if they're not interested in the game, but they like the show.
I didn't realize we had
having
this much
2
stuff to talk
separate
about.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and it'll be the same thing next week. Like, if you want to drop out after the show stuff, Amanda, then you know, I can facilitate that.
Yeah, I was gonna drop out before, and then I got in too deep, and I'm like, no, it'll just be weird. So maybe I'll just head out now. And remember, Halsey doesn't tolerate glitches.
No, Amanda,
yeah.
come back. I want to see the dolls again.
For next
Oh,
week,
God.
I'll
I can do this.
Oh
There you
my
go.
God.
Oh,
Next week I'll do the same thing. I'll do the split thumbnail.
Come on, Goose.
What?
Okay.
but yeah, I think
Love you,
that
honey.
there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in
Aw,
Halo.
I love you
besides,
too, Abe.
Oh wait, was that on? Was I
Yeah.
on there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my
Everybody.
gosh.
We
My
heard
daughter's
all
go.
of it.
If you ever talk to me like that again, I'm done. By the way,
This is filing for harassment as we speak.
Do you want me to
Oh,
put
my
the doll cam back up? Have Amanda rejoin? I'll just leave the dolls on.
no, I mean I feel like we're coming to a natural end here. Like we have essentially run out of things to talk about at this
Oh,
point.
we've got 5 questions from the community that we've
Oh,
got.
hell
better-
yeah!
Oh my.
Throw the
Let's do
dolls
this.
up then.
All right, let's we're gonna just do this quick fire, because we are getting close to 2 hours for the spoiler. Yeah. And
All
look,
right,
it's
number
sold.
1, NRxic. Here you go. Let me make it bigger so I can actually read it here. NRxic, gentlemen, just caught up in the last podcast and watched Halo Episode 4, right after which I thought was another strong episode despite the lack of etching. I'm itching for more of that. Question for the pod. While Fortnite can add Spider-Man, John Wick, and Master Chief as purchasable DLC, Halo Infinite has its hands tied when it comes to adding things from outside the Halo universe. We're not going to see full gore from Killer Instinct as a skin in the game, for example, but I did realize recently that there's nothing really stopping 343 from adding a full gore weapon charm. I would think that most Halo fans would not be too annoyed with this level of cross-branding, as charms are somewhat something. He didn't say. I'd love to see a Killer Instinct logo charm. If 343 was willing to go outside of Microsoft IPs, I'd buy a Sonic the Hedgehog charm. So my question for everyone is, would you be okay with that level of cross-branding? And if IP would you want to be made into a weapon charm? Would you be okay with that level of cross-branding? And what IP would you like to see made into a weapons charm?
It's difficult, right? Because the idea is that we'd be spending money on this stuff, and I like to think that they could take the MCC approach, where they give us the toggle, right, to turn off like silly non-canon things. But you know, they're doing the fracture events, which are like non-canon armor cores. I don't think that 343 will let people pay for a thing and give players the option to not
that's
see
not
that
happening.
thing.
Yeah.
So I think I personally wouldn't have any problem with it, especially if it's only multiplayer stuff. Like,
And
whatever,
only a
dude.
weapon charm. Like,
Yeah,
what-
like
Yeah,
it's not a big deal. You're not like doing what Call of Duty's doing, right? You're not running around as the doll on the tricycle from fucking what's it called? The Hand. What's it called? Oh my god, what are those movies called, guys? Help me, please.
what the heck? Child's Play? No.
No, the doll. You want to play a
Shining.
game? No, no.
Jigsaw.
Yeah, Jigsaw. But what are those movies called?
Saw.
Saw.
Dude, it's in the name.
Oh my god. You know what? Anyway, it doesn't matter. No.
Who cares?
Yes, I don't care, but like, I don't think they'll ever do it.
I
think
don't
they should go as
care.
over the top as possible. Make it the dumbest shit imaginable, please.
Give me a Sonic.
I like pissing people
The
off.
thing is,
Yeah.
here's the thing. I don't care. Like when I play, like I said, I upgraded my Spartan once in the 2,000 hours that I played Halo 5, and it's still one of the early. I had to get that in. It's still one of the early skins or whatever, and so I don't care. about
Hovering
that
over
stuff.
this mute button.
but there is. Here's the thing, though. There is. I think they're going to have to balance stuff, and they're going to have to be careful how they kind of scale up to that stuff. I think that's all it is, because there is people that do really, really care. I think if you had the toggle, like you mentioned, then maybe everybody wins. But
I mean, not just that. 343 themselves definitely care, right? Even the fracture
Yeah,
cores
they
are
do.
still decidedly Halo, right? Yokai. I mean, God, why can't I remember names right now? The Samurai one looks pretty cool, and the flippin' Jinro one looks really cool too. You know, so it's like, but they still fit the Halo aesthetic. So are we ever going to see something like Scream? Just I forgot Scream guy's name.
They've got a Santa hat in the game.
Yes, but that's
I mean, they
still
do-
kind of.
they do got cat ears. How does that fit into the lore? But anyways, that's fine. Yeah,
No, not the lore.
They're
It still
speakers.
fits the aesthetic, is what I should say. Something like I don't know,
Spartans can
Jason.
be e-boys.
Yeah, something like Jason running around, which wouldn't fit it, right? Unless they somehow convert it into like a Halo-looking armor, which I'd be okay with.
Yeah,
You have like
I
a
think
Robo Fox for a Star Fox crossover, and you just got a Spartan furry.
Star Fox. Sonic.
All right, let's move on. Next question.
Once
I
they
think
buy
we're fine.
Nintendo.
We're fine, but people will complain.
All
Let's
right,
go to the
next question from good old Collingwood, who normally writes a thesis, but this is only one line. Hello, Halo players. What do you think of Halo Infinite third-person mod play? It's weird that this has popped back up so much because this is like old. The third-person mod stuff was a while ago, and it's really started taking over.
I think someone put out a new mod that works better than the one that was closer to launch worked. I don't mind. Like, cool, play how you want to play as long as it doesn't like become a feature that will affect multiplayer in any way. One of the most frustrating things in Destiny's PvP, for example, is even their like competitive PvP suite, which is Trials of Osiris. Like, only until recently, people could emote, which puts them out in third person, like Chief is here in this footage, and you can see behind corners and stuff. And Bungie finally decided to take it or make it so that you can't emote in Trials anymore.
I thought they
Because it
I thought
gives,
they
like, a
forgot
def-
that PvP existed completely. I'm surprised they actually did something.
Come
Good on
on,
them.
Honestly, all I take from watching
that's
this
fair.
footage
It's
is,
fair.
holy crap, the Chief's armor and animations are so good.
I know, it's so
yeah,
good.
that's what I wanted to call out. Like, so I I'm not going to play Halo in third person,
Yeah,
but
no way.
I was surprised by how good it looks. Because usually, I mean, the thing that always stands out of my mind is like the Elder Scrolls games or any of those Bethesda games.
This
You go
had-
into
well,
third person,
this
it's
is-
like, ugh.
It's multiplayer already, and it's
Yeah.
co-op, so they have to make it look good. Like
Yeah,
they're really good about that. They have
makes
reasons why they have to.
Yeah, it looks really good, and well, why not give people an option in the campaign if they want it? Obviously, you don't want it in multiplayer because it does give an advantage, right? You can see around corners and things like that you wouldn't be able to in first. So definitely do not want to see them bring that to multiplayer in any way. But if they want to add it to the campaigns, because there is some people that just cannot play in first person, it just makes them sick or whatever, or they just feel more immersed doing it that way. Let them.
I tell you what, if it comes to multiplayer, the only mode it can be in is something that my brothers and I used to play called Tag. 300% player speed, 50% gravity, like 300% jump height, swords and gravity hammers.
Yep.
Only in third person. Like, I'd be super down for that.
That sounds good. All right, next question.
Next question. That means I got to go off this video again. It looks pretty neat. It's all
Yeah,
someone's broken
it
everything
does
in the
look
damn
really
game.
good.
It's good though. Flip.
Yeah,
for
God,
being
Halo Infinite's
unintended.
such
For being unintended.
I've got it. I've got it running max on PC at 1440p and getting like about 110 frames per second. And Jesus Christ, is it a good-looking game?
You know what annoys me? Just really quick, it's a bit of a tangent. Is the history revision with Infinite? The campaign released. It was a damn good game. It was fun. Yes, it was one biome, but it played like a dream. It had a variety of things to do. The weapons were great. The vehicle was great. Everyone had a good time. They finished it. They moved on, right? But now all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, even the campaign wasn't that good. Oh, even this was nah, dude. Chill. I understand you're mad at the lack of multiplayer content.
This is just human psychology. So this just reminds me of my ex-wife.
Lovely lady.
Having a bingo card, it's definitely gotta be Sandbox.
Yeah, our honeymoon was great, but
Wait, it's like
They were married for 2,000 hours. Did you know that? And she used to be a dev.
It's like when like
Get
these
fucked,
things
Abe.
are not. Everything is good. And then you do something to piss her off, and all of a sudden, like there's like this list of like every little thing that was wrong. Like all of a sudden, everything from the past bothered her.
Top of her list. He won't stop saying sandbox.
Right, it was like, and then she just wanted me to shut up about those 2,000 hours. No, I'm just kidding. We were done by
Abe,
then.
how's your friend
That's why I was
doing?
able to play 2,000 hours is because we were done by then. But yeah, let's move on.
2,000 milliseconds in bed. That was the wife number. All right. Next question, Jamie ODST. Hey guys, thoughts on the new season 2 map overview today? Jamie, we loved it. I think they look pretty fun and actually got me fairly excited to jump back in after not playing for 2 to 3 months. Also, will you guys be buying the second season pass? Keep up the great work. All the best. Can't wait to hear OBM complain about the ping and the bullets in the new season. I definitely will be buying it because once I buy it and I complete it, I then own every season pass after that until the end of time. No reason not to.
Yeah.
Because
First, I want to say
credits where you can just buy the next one.
right. First, I want to say hello, Jamie. It's great to see you back. Hope you're feeling better. I think to answer
don't hope you're feeling better because I just want to keep the karma balanced. We got to keep everything, feng shui.
Yeah,
If everyone's positive, then the negative just comes out of nowhere. Got to be careful.
Jamie,
Go ahead.
it was great to meet you, dude. I am super stoked on the maps, like Jesse said. I will 100% be jumping back in and buying the season pass. I was always going to buy the season pass, whether I came back right away or not. But the excitement around the TV show and with season 2 getting announced recently, I've been putting a surprising amount of time back into Halo Infinite's multiplayer. I'm playing it for at least an hour every night so that I can finish out the current season pass. I've gone from... I stopped playing it at the beginning of February, and I was around level 38 on the season pass. I just hit level 73 today before the podcast started.
Wow.
Makes sense. What do you play usually?
Team Slayer and Big Team, and then if any challenges require specific modes, then I'll hop into a game or two of that.
Fiesta.
I gotta tell you, like I hate that I am good at SWAT. I'll say that I'm good at SWAT. I don't enjoy playing it, but like that's a whole other thing.
Have you tried Commando
Halo.
SWAT?
Beast mode.
Huh?
Have you tried Commando SWAT? I feel like that's the best
I've played all of them now. The Commando SWAT taught me how to use the Commando.
Yes.
And now I'm a fucking beast with that thing. 100%. Even like sidekick SWAT has helped me be better with the sidekick. I will say that those modes have helped me get better at the base game. I just can't want to turn a quarter and die, spawn, die, spawn, die, spawn, die.
So it's like Call of Duty-ish. I get
Yeah,
it.
100%.
Hey, you know what? I'm all for all these modes that I'm not, a fan of. But yeah. But no, to answer Jamie's question, yeah, I will get. I never did battle passes before Halo. I think I just do these because I'm on the show. But
And
whatever.
they're cheap, $10.
Yeah,
And they don't expire. You don't have. They're not going to feel like a waste of money.
And I'm probably going to put 3,000 hours into Halo Infinite, so might as well.
I mean,
get
at
the
least
pass.
2, though, right?
At least 2.
I already have some
It's happened
currency.
before.
Just waiting for it. By the way, the Halo, the broken Halos in the shop again. It's only 300. It's a pretty cool piece of cosmetic. If you guys play the game at all, it might be worth getting.
Okay. Cool.
All right. The next question is from some guy named Mart. I don't know. It's just empty, so I'm going to skip it. I don't see any text there. Oh no! Now it worked. Okay, there it is. Hello, guys and cats. From Mortania. In this episode, Silver Team discussed the pets they were given by Halsey during training. Vanek's pig, Ivan the Terrible, being the most long-lived. As Spartans, what pet would you choose and what would you call them? And you can ignore the Halsey killing them part. Hugs, Britannia.
I was disappointed to find out that they didn't eat the pig. I really wanted Vanek to say, yeah, we ate Ivan. Because growing up where I did, that's what we did with our pets. We had pigs and chickens and rabbits, and like you show them and then you eat them.
Wow.
What if everyone in the future is Muslim and Jewish?
I did not know that your mother had a little bit of Halsey in her.
My dad actually.
That's just...
I got some stories.
Oh no! Okay, so your dad has
the first time I
Halsey.
ever went hunting, I took a bite out of a deer heart, did the whole thing. No, if I were to pick a pet that I knew had to die, I would.
No, you don't have to worry. The Halsey killing them part's not a part of the deal.
Okay, that's true. That's true. If I was a Spartan, I'd be down for like a salamander. I feel like I could chill and like have a little salamander emblem on my armor. That'd be super dope. Call him Howard Hughes.
How about you, Sol? You got one? Are you still thinking?
I mean, I guess as a Spartan means you have, the physical capabilities that normal people can't. So then it opens up the doors to like, I don't know, stuff like lynxes or like wolves, straight up just wolves.
Oh, you just stole my shit. But anyway.
Oh, a bear.
Okay, that's my.
I mean, here's the thing. You're a Spartan. Like, so, I got a cat. You can't just have a cat. You gotta upgrade to a tiger, right? I mean, if Mike Tyson can have a tiger, then a Spartan can have a tiger.
But my actual answer would probably be an owl. I feel maybe like a barn owl. That'd be cool.
Okay. Oh, eagle would be good. But anyways, yeah, I already said.
I was thinking eagle, but too much on the nose with Peacemaker recently. So.
Eagling.
All right, Jesse, you got any answer?
Shark.
Okay, good answer. Let's go.
With lasers strapped to its.
They're gonna have future space tech, and they can get it so he can hang out on land. He can have like the friggin' the grunt methane tank. He can have a saltwater.
He just walks around. He's like, my food nipple.
Well,
we'll give him Mjolnir Sharkner.
Turn into Sharknadoes, come out and eat Samuel L. Jackson.
No, we're not being stupid. This is all real shit that I'm coming up with on the fly. There's gonna be a goddamn shark with a saltwater tank, and he's walking around in Sharknir armor. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, the Mjolnir Shark 6 battle harness. It'd be good.
Yeah, he gets it.
All right.
All right, and the last question from a pervert, Travis, aka Podrick. Salutations, Haloians. He's asleep. He hasn't messaged me in a while, so I can say this. 2 things. First, which was the best butt you've seen so far on the show? Kai, McKee's body double, Special Pablo, or Vinsher / Carl Tanner of Gin Alley from Game of Thrones, Gottlieb from Pacific Rim, default British bad guy of the 2010s.
I haven't seen all of them, so.
The only one I want to see again were the ladies. So, because I'll look at Pablo's again. The other guy's too thin, like a walking twig.
I just want to know who wants to see. No offense to him, but like who?
Burn
really
Gorman's
wants
wife wants to see it, and I'm sure plenty of people that are.
I don't even know.
Twink lovers.
I thought so. Like
way too skinny, but anyways.
That's the whole thing, man.
I'm pretty torn between if I had to give like a real answer, like Pablo and or Chief and Kai.
Yeah, we'll just go Kai. That's fine. She's cute. All right, that's it.
Wow, so sexist of you. All right. Second, I want to answer Mort's Spartan pet question above, but keep the killing part. I would go with the Massachusetts state bird, the black-capped chickadee. Jess will remember this guy. It was always outside our windows at like 5 a.m., making that same constant whistle noise it does. My entire childhood growing up, that woke me up every goddamn morning. I hate that bird. I hate that it's the state bird. And if I could kill them all with a snap of my fingers, I would turn into Q immediately. I would name it douchebag and have absolutely zero problem eliminating the douchebag, even if I won.
You know what? Thinking on that, I changed my answer to Canadian geese. Yes, if we include the killing part.
Dude, Canada geese.
Yeah, because you're going to lose. So I figure I'm just going to lose. What do I want to kill?
Well, I'll lose against the geese, bro.
All right, guys.
That's the last question.
That's the last question. I think this is. Do we have any final thoughts? Are we ready to go?
We have a blog
Soul looks
post
like he's ready to go.
next week.
Halo's pretty cool, guys.
Yeah.
And next week,
All right.
actually, it's gonna be pretty packed because we're gonna have an action-packed episode. There's probably a lot of stuff. We're gonna have a full blog post going through all the game modes. Probably some more leaks. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. You guys, you know what? We should, before we sign off, we never do this. I think it might be good to just kind of, we are part of XboxEra. We do work on different things. So, I'm just going to go around. If you guys got anything you want to call out that you're doing, feel free to do that. So I'll start with you before you pass on.
Okay. Actually, I am. I started work on a season 1 retrospective. I'm keeping it not impartial because that's impossible. I'm just basically going through the passes, the events, the free items, the non-free items, the challenge system, how it was in the beginning, that kind of thing. And I'm hoping to get that out in a couple of weeks, a week or so, maybe.
All right, sounds good. Jesse, how about you?
I'm going to ignore the other.
You might be doing a review or something, right?
I'm only working on 3 at the moment. I'm working on Rogue Legacy, which comes out in 13 days. So I've already been playing that a bunch. I'm working on Ayuden Chronicles Rising, which comes out May 10th. So look for that closer to then. And I just got Godfall a full week after embargo, but I'm going to play that all weekend. I'll get that out. So, yeah. And tomorrow I am producing Xbox Era podcast. I think it's 105 with Ed Freeze. Formerly of Microsoft.
Cool. That is very cool. I was back when I used to think his name was Ed Fries. Him and Blackley were like the guys that we used to always point to when people said, "Oh, it's big evil Microsoft." We're like, "No, look at these guys. They don't look evil."
He's one of the so far, just through text, he's like the nicest person. Like Nick literally just messaged him, said, "Hey, do you want to come on?" He's like, "Sure." When? How does this day work? Yep. That was it.
I am looking forward to that. So hopefully you guys get some good questions lined up for him that we can use in the book.
Probably not.
And then Pfhorbear, I'm going to turn it over to you last. And then I guess since you're the last one to turn out the lights, go ahead and just sign us off.
Sure. So something that we alluded to a little bit earlier in the show was I am working on producing a new series that we are calling Halo Drop Pod, where we will cover super specific topics, specifically things like updates to the games one-on-one. So it'll be me and another member of the You Had Me at Halo cast, or just somebody from XboxEra, be it John or Blast the Bass. Maybe we can even get Nick to hop on and tell us why he doesn't actually like Halo. I think that kind of stuff would be a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out and listening. I know it was a longer episode at just about 2 hours. Guys, the best thing that you could possibly do after you've listened to this podcast is to rate it on whatever platform you're listening to it on, whether it's on YouTube by dropping a like, if it's on Apple Podcast by leaving a review, 5 stars or whatever. 5 stars is pretty good, but whatever you think is best. And of course, going to patreon.com/the Xbox Era and supporting us there. There's so much cool content over there. There's opportunities for merch. There's so much that you can find at our Patreon page. It's honestly the best way to support us. Guys, thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Happy Easter to those who will be celebrating. And be safe and have fun, all that fun stuff, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next week.
See you.
So long.